So we're standing in front of the NFPA 13D Home Residential Fire Sprinkler Display. This display was put together through some grants that we received from the National Home Fire Sprinkler Coalition and the NFSA as well. So overall, the display shows us all the different aspects that could be put into your home if you were to put a fire sprinkler in your home. If we start in the bottom here, this is your water supply that would come up from the ground in the basement of your house. And from here we come up to basically our control valve, which would allow water to flow into the system. So all of this is done after you have your shut-off valves for the home water supply. So you'd have water coming into the control valve. There's a backflow preventer, which basically means water can go one way, but it can't go back into the municipal water supply. Then after that, we have a water flow switch, which is optional. And we also have an inside bell, which is connected to that. So basically, water comes and flows through here. There's a little paddle on the inside of here that says, hey, water's moving. It sends a signal to this box and goes up to the bell, and then the bell would ring to say, hey, there's water flowing in your sprinkler system. As we continue on up this riser, we have an inspector's drain valve. It's a test valve, which would drain to the outside of your house. Then we also have a gauge to make sure that the pressure in the system is where it needs to be, that it's not too high or too low. If it's too low, the system may not work as designed. If it's too high, sometimes you can blow the heads out, blow the fusible links out of the heads if there's too much pressure. That's basically all that there is to the functioning part of the system. So home fire sprinklers can be put into both existing homes or brand new construction. The cost is about $1.35 to maybe $2 a square foot to put in a system, depending if it's a retrofit or an existing home or a brand new construction. Obviously in new constructions it's a little bit cheaper because you can put it in as you go. Retrofit, you'll have to do some added work for the plumbers to make this happen. As it is installed, you'll see this, what we call the riser, and then that's like the parts behind the scene, and everything else is right here. So we have 4 different types of heads that are displayed here today. So we have a pendant style sprinkler. So it just drops down. You see these a lot very common in commercial businesses. You also have a concealed pendant sprinkler, which basically it's hidden. And when the heat gets to be a certain degree, this pops off and it drops down, and now you have water that flows out of the system. These two here, the sidewall fire sprinkler and the concealed fire sprinkler sidewall, the concealed ones work the same way. So the heat rises to the temperature, this disc pops off, it pushes out, and then you have water flowing out. This one works just like that. There's a fusible link in there, that red bulb will break, and then it takes the plunger out and water comes out. So in our system here, we do not have water attached to the system. It is a dry system for display purposes. But normally you'd have water in all of these pipes. And water would be coming up to just to the backside of these sprinklers. This little red bulb in here is a fusible link. That bulb is set to burst at a certain temperature. Once the temperature raises to that level, that bulb breaks, and you can see there's a little plunger that's being held in place by that bulb. Once the bulb breaks, the plunger drops out, and then water comes out. That's how a sprinkler works. And it's not like you see it in the movies where you hold a lighter up to it, it breaks, and they all go off. Sprinklers work one sprinkler at a time based on the heat in the area. So these systems do need to be tested annually. It is very inexpensive to have that test done. None of the tests require the sprinklers to be activated in your home. It's all done through this inspector's test valve and drain, so right through here. So anything that's done is that they'll check the pressure before they start, they'll make sure the water flows, that the alarm goes off, and that they have a certain amount of residual pressure in the gauge in the system while it is flowing, because it needs that in order to make sure the heads work appropriately. That's how they test it. So no heads have to be activated in order to test the system. So sometimes you may see people in businesses walking around with a big cup, and you might see them put them over something on the ceiling. They're not testing the sprinklers, they're actually testing the smoke detectors in the building. So it is two different things that they're not using that to test sprinklers in the building at that time. One concern that is brought up quite often is, well, what if the sprinkler heads leak? What if the piping leaks? It is very uncommon for any kind of a leak to occur in the system. If there is a leak, it does not take a lot to repair it. However, you as a homeowner cannot repair that. It needs to be done by a licensed professional sprinkler fitter. So they would need to come in and either change out the head, maybe cut a hole in the wall where they need to replace the piping, that kind of thing. But it is very, very uncommon for any leaks to occur. So a lot of people ask, why do I need a sprinkler system? I got smoke alarms, that's good enough. You know, that'll let me know when I need to get out. Well, when you're sleeping, your nose doesn't work. Your nose does not work if you're sleeping. You cannot smell while you are sleeping. Some people have a hard time waking up to the sound of a smoke detector. Because of that, this is just one reason to have a sprinkler system installed in your house. Sprinkler systems like this will put out a fire 90% of the time with one head. The intent of the sprinkler system isn't really to put out the fire, although that's what it does 90% of the time with one head. The intent of the sprinkler system is to allow you more time to get out of the house or out of the building so that you can be safe. Yes, some stuff may be waterlogged when it's said and done after a fire, but I personally would much rather have a bunch of waterlogged stuff and still have that stuff than completely lose everything in my house. Actually, we do have a recent event that happened in Fitchburg. It doesn't involve a residential home fire sprinkler, like in one or two family homes where this is designed, but it involves a multiple family dwelling, 4 or more. A gentleman had come home, he wanted to cook something on the stove, started to cook something, sat down to wait for it to cook, fell asleep. Next thing he knows, he's waking up to the smoke alarm going off, and the fire sprinkler that was in the kitchen had activated and put the fire out. Yes, there was water all over the floor in his home, but that could have been a completely tragic outcome if it wasn't for the smoke detector and that fire sprinkler. The smoke detector may have alerted him to get out, but there could have still been a fire. But because of the fire sprinklers that were installed in that building, it allowed him to get out. And there wasn't a whole lot of toxic smoke that he was breathing in during that time either. So some of you may want to know, how do I know where to put these sprinklers, or where do they go, or can I change where they go after they're installed? The answer is you don't get a choice on where they're installed. If you want them installed, they go in every room. And that is actually determined by the fire sprinkler designer. They have to meet certain requirements when they put in a system. So one head, for example, let's say the one head is able to cover 120 square feet. So based on the square footage of your home, you have to have a certain number of sprinkler heads that will cover the square footage of your home. There's all sorts of other rules. There are some exceptions as to where they can or cannot go. But that's something that you don't have to worry about. You just need to say, I want these in my home because I want to be protecting myself and my family. Let the professional handle where they're going to go. We really appreciate the grant that we received from the Home Fire Sprinkler Coalition, also through NFSA, the National Fire Sprinkler Association. Our other sponsors up here on top, the Watts, Viking, Potter, these people have all donated all of the materials here to put into this display. Personally, we want to thank Dave Jones from Madison and the Ursel brothers out of McFarland. They helped us construct this and put the plumbing together. Without them, this wouldn't have been able to happen as fast as it did. We're very, very thankful for this. And just know that home fire sprinklers save lives and property. 85% of fire deaths happen in the home. Most of those happen at night when people are sleeping. Know that you only have about 2 minutes to get out before smoke and flames engulf the entire room. That's not a lot of time. What we have now for time is almost nothing compared to 30 years ago when we had stuff that was built out of natural fibers. Remember that the fire sprinkler system is the best protection against any kind of a fire. Only the sprinkler that is closest to the fire, to the heat source, will activate, not all of them, just the closest one. And most of the time, the fire sprinklers can contain and extinguish the fire before we ever arrive. Fire sprinklers are like having a firefighter in your home with a hose ready to put out a fire. Normally, it may take us 5 to 7 minutes from the time you find out that there's a fire and we get there. But with sprinklers, they're there right away. It just has to wait till the heat builds up, that the bulb expands, breaks, plunger drops out, and then water is being applied. For more information on any of this, check out the Home Fire Sprinkler Coalition website. You can see it right down here. They've got awesome timelines, all sorts of videos, educational stuff. They have a wealth of information there. Please check them out.